Hello and welcome to the Americana X Newswatch pre-election special. I'm Greg D, coming to you live from Los Angeles, California. You know, this is a special episode. It's kind of outside my normal time that I go live, but I thought it'd be fun to do a pre-election special because tomorrow is the big day. This is the time when we as Americans kind of all get together and express ourselves by going out and voting for the candidate that we want to see be either the next president of the United States or re-electing the president that we currently have to serve another 4 years. I probably will do things a little bit differently than other commentators on this show today, because I think so much of what's out there right now, I mean, obviously, if you're on YouTube and you're looking around, you're watching all these videos, a lot of the other commentators are already looking at electoral maps. So I probably won't spend a lot of time on this special looking at electoral maps per se. You know, I guess if I were to make an electoral map of my own, it would be like, here's the United States, Washington State, Oregon, California, Colorado, blue, right? Some East Coast states, including New York, blue, and everything else red, right? So I'm predicting a giant red wave, giant landslide. I'm a man of common sense. If you watch this show, if you've been here before, you know that the way that I'm analyzing things is not always purely based on looking at polls or looking at data analysis. These are components that I'll bring up from time to time, but that is not the heart of my show. What my show is really doing is sort of balancing data with looking at things through a common sense lens. In fact, if you're new to the show Newswatch, this is a news commentary show that gives you a bit of common sense perspective in our weekly news cycle. The show is made for conservatives that care about what's going on behind the sensationalized headlines. So, you know, if you are new here, welcome to the show. If you've been here before, you know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe. Also, share this video out to the friends in your network so that we can continue to encourage a positive, optimistic, conservative, focused, greater America. And really, I think that's what we're looking at right now. We are looking at the difference between what kind of America we want to have for the next 4 years. Honestly, it is my prediction, obviously, that Donald Trump's going to win this thing walking away, you know, but it really does come down to, are we going to be a nation where positivity wins, where optimism wins, where a more positive view of our country wins, a national focus of America? You know, America First gets used a lot, right? But this does describe it. Are we going to care about our country and see it in a positive light? Are we going to esteem our own country? Or are we going to be a pessimistic, we're going into a dark winter type of psychology that drives the next season of our nation? Really what we're talking about here is a war of realities. In the words of Dave Rubin, a reality war. Which reality are we voting for, you guys? So this is what I wanted to do. Because I already have this kind of basic belief that tomorrow is going to come and go, and then it'll take the time it takes for them to count things and report them, and we'll decide who won, da-da-da-da-da. That'll just happen, right? I think it is going to come out that Donald Trump won big time, you know, bigly. And so what I want to do with my show here is talk a little bit about how we got here and how we've trained a generation of young people to think really negatively about our country and where some of that comes from. And then just a few indicators that I'm seeing, a little bit of actual experience from my life this week. And then also just kind of look at a couple of notes, kind of a few, there was an article that came out earlier this week I want to highlight here. And then we're just going to kind of talk about, you know, where we're at, where things are, and why I think that you, the viewer, if you have not voted yet, why I think it's in your best interest to vote for a more positive, optimistic outlook towards America, and to embrace a more positive, optimistic outlook for yourself. Make your own life and your own psychology a little more healthy. All right, so if you watched on Friday, I recorded an episode of Newswatch that I called Universities Are Liberal Insanity Creating Factories. And I called it that because I was looking at a interview that was done between Brett Weinstein and Greg Lukianoff. And they went and they kind of talked about things from the perspective of behavioral psychologists and sort of looking through the lens of these guys that have worked in the university atmosphere for many years. And one of the things that came out of that, which is very interesting to me, actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to leave a link here in this description so you can go check out the episode I made on Friday. So I won't go into detail on that. But there's one point that I do want to highlight here, and then I want to build on that concept, okay? So one of the things they got at was this concept that universities, and to a lesser extent, our entertainment and media and our education system, in a larger extent, has encouraged a cognitive distortion way of thinking. We've encouraged a whole generation of young people, kind of becoming adults right now, to embrace or practice catastrophizing, way of thinking, that behavior, a way of creating a pattern of thinking that creates a catastrophe out of everything. Overgeneralizing, where they make a mountain out of a molehill, they overgeneralize based on one small example. And then the third one, binary thinking. Everything's very black and white. You're either good or bad. You're either a fascist or an anti-fascist. So this is what we're going to do. I want to take that concept. I want to look at how that's played itself out, even in the last week, in an example that I've seen firsthand. And then on a more meta level, talk about how this has influenced a whole generation of liberals to embrace a really unhealthy psychology. Really what we have a generation of liberals that are going insane. They're living really in an unhealthy psychology right now. I think that we can identify it, and then we can help pull them out of it, help pull them from the brink, pull them from the ledge, right? So to speak. And then for the young people that are getting raised now in our education system, being influenced by entertainment and all the other mechanisms of culture, we can help save them from the sort of madness that our young adults are living in now. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about this cognitive distortion thinking. Basically, as I said, I think that this has led to a lot of our liberal unrest that we're seeing happen across our country right now. So whether it's, it's protesting, or whether it's looting and rioting, or whether it's crime through arson, or it's carrying out violence, sometimes straight up murder, in the name of politically correct ideologies or neo-Marxist philosophies, it's all coming from that same root. It's all coming from this kind of deranged way of creating a carefully crafted reality. For the last 30, 40 years, liberals have been very insistent on creating a reality. Originally, when they won the culture war in the late 70s, early 80s, I've made other videos in my show Zeitgeist about this very subject. But back when they won the culture war at that time, really all they were trying to do was go into all of our systems of influence through entertainment, education, media, and they just wanted to maintain their hegemony over all those for their own power so that they could have sort of the say of how people were going to think in culture. Well, at the time it worked because there was no internet. It was easy to control the way that people thought because they really only got their messaging from these small number of channels. So for many people that were liberals that were comfortable for the last 30 or 40 years, they kind of got a warm, fuzzy feeling from having cultural dominance. They just want things to kind of get back to the good old days. You know, like back when we controlled things and it was more comfortable and Obama was president and we just, everything could be really surface level and banal still and we didn't have to think through anything at a deep level and we weren't challenged. None of our ideas were challenged because we controlled everything. We just want to go back to that. Shut up all those people that disagree with us so we can have hegemonic control over everything again. Why can't we just get back to that? That's what the liberals would say. But the bad old days that were driven by political correctness and ushered in by the liberals, those were the dark times. And new ideas that are coming into the fore are challenging the old liberal establishment. The way it was described, I made another video on my show Zeitgeist about this, but it talked about the difference between the blue church and the red religion. And the blue church wants top-down control, authoritarian control. They want to control what you see and what you experience. They want to shut out all those other voices, and they only want to have their voices heard. And then there's the red religion. They're a little more open to just challenging ideas. They have a decentralized approach to things. They don't need top-down authority because they're confident enough in what they believe. And it's based on a whole different order of thinking. But, obviously with the rise of the internet, more people have a voice. More people can build their own audience and impact people from their own platform. And as they're able to do that, it threatens the power of the top-down authoritarian rule of the blue church. At any rate, red religion is the wave of the future, and the Democrats are freaking out right now because their old system of power is threatened by this new sort of looser organization of people just coming up with, just having their own ideas get out there through free speech. And that's why we have this really big struggle happening through social media right now, where they want to take old blue church philosophies and bring them into the internet age, and apply it to all of our social media. But it's not really workable. It was much easier when you had television and there was only 52 channels on cable dial that you could choose from. Much easier to control what people saw and who they heard from, when there was only a few voices that even had a voice to speak to people anyways. But now with the internet and with social media, almost impossible to control it. Of course, they're trying right now. We can see the even in the latest news in the last week or two, Twitter, Facebook, Google, more than once being called in to testify. It's just another form of the blue church madness, or, if you don't like the term blue church, it's, the liberal hegemony of the past kind of leaking into this new thing. And they're like, how do we control the conservative voices so they don't get heard, right? At any rate, now more positive, optimistic, conservative voices are coming to the fore, and there's a new age that is rising. It's a new conservative age that is rising. And this really does freak out the liberals. The Democrats are freaked out that they are losing their hegemonic cultural influence in America because their ideas are being exposed for being negative, divisive, and wrong. And I don't think they're even consciously aware of that necessarily, but that is what is happening. But all the latest protesting, all that madness that's devolved into rioting and looting and arson and theft and violence, even murder in some cases, as I said before. I believe this has been driven through the narrative over many years through multiple channels to promote and encourage unhealthy, cognitive, distorted ways of thinking. And this is what leads us to catastrophizing, overgeneralizing, and binary thinking that is being practiced by so much of this liberal generation, particularly the millennials, and now the Z-Gen, the liberals of the Z-Gen. And it's the liberal party that's been pushing this agenda in America. What I want to do right now, I'm going to give you a specific example of this. I'm going to show you how catastrophizing, overgeneralizing, and binary thinking plays out in the real. Right here on the ground, Los Angeles, California, ground zero. I'm going to play a video for you that I shot myself when I was out and about just a few days ago. And, I play this video out of a type of mercy, I guess, or like empathy. I play this with empathy. I don't play this to make fun of these young women that are dressed as handmaids, but I mean, at some point, we do need to start talking about this stuff. We need to face it. We need to talk about it, because if we don't call it out and if we don't talk about it, then we can't help these young people become more psychologically healthy to begin with. I guess we can make fun of them. That's what Saturday Night Live would do, right? That's not going to help them get better. So here it is. I got to just let it... I'm going to rewind this. Okay.
Alone will not be enough to stop Trump. I know it's hard to hear, but it's true. We invite you. Sign up at refusefascism.org right now. Follow at refusefascism and put this on our social media. Tell your friends that there is an organization.
So they go on to say, this is an organization of fascism. We need to stop the fascism. I'll show you this still that I took right here. The young women that have these signs hanging around their necks, one of the signs says, "My crime, I had a miscarriage." Okay, so in this young woman's mind, she's so far gone in this kind of reality that she's accepted. It's a deranged way of thinking that she has got herself convinced so hardcore on this that she's going to wear a sign that said, "I had a miscarriage and that's my crime." Okay? This other young woman, she's got a sign here that says, "My crime, I used birth control." Who's calling that a crime? This young woman has got herself so whipped up into this belief system that has been promoted by the left that they think in these extreme ways. This is binary thinking, it's catastrophizing, and it's overgeneralizing. They went ahead, they handed me, I took some of their swag, right? So here we've got some of their stickers right here. Trump, Pence, out now, right? It's kind of making this big demand with their stickers. Trump, Pence, out now, right? We can't wait to vote. We got to do something drastic. And that's what these young people think. Voting's not enough. Can't just vote them out. Can't just get a majority of the vote and vote them out of office. That won't be enough. That's what they say here in their print material, right? Look at this. Here's their poster they gave me. The Trump-Pence regime must stop. This kind of extreme language, the word regime. Refusefascism.org. They honestly think they've got themselves convinced that Donald Trump and his regime are fascists. They really believe this. Fascism cannot be voted out. The people must drive it from power. They've got themselves convinced that he's not going to leave office. And there's this whole big long storyline and narrative around that. I feel sorry for these people. That's why I'm playing this for you. It's because I'm doing it out of empathy. I want them to get healthier. They are living in a reality that is not real reality. It's fantasy. This is what they say in their print material here. Trump is already stealing the election. We need to vote, but Trump will not be stopped just by voting. So they think he's going to be like a Mussolini or a Hitler. Or they've really honestly got themselves believing that stuff. We face a rolling coup. What is a rolling coup? Now they're starting to lose me. I mean, that's just dumb. And a theft of an election heading to showdown November 3rd. Now is the time to stand together in the streets and public squares, continuing through the election as long as it takes to stop a fascist coup. We must vote in big numbers, but the reality is that voting alone will not stop Trump. This is dumb. This is literally stupid. We must vote in big numbers. Yes, that's how you solve it. Vote in big numbers. Vote in high enough numbers that you vote him out of office. This is going to solve all your problems here. Your wearing of the red outfits like the handmaids and the walking around and having your stickers made and your poster, useless, needless. Just get enough people to vote more, get a majority of the people to vote. This really tells me, all this stuff tells me that they know their ideas aren't popular. They have a minority of the vote, so they're going to have to stoke fear in a minority of the people to use a violent revolution to take this guy out of office. This is what our universities are teaching our young adults. These young women have themselves truly convinced that going out on the street wearing the red handmaid outfit is somehow going to get them to the end result that is going to make the world better. They really are there. This is an outrage that cannot stand. Trump and Amy Coney Barrett have refused to commit to a peaceful transfer of power. Totally stupid. There is no proof. If you were to ask them, can you please provide proof that Trump and Amy Coney Barrett refused to commit to a peaceful transfer of power? Amy Coney Barrett, why is she involved in this? Because she's in the news cycle? I mean, so dumb. This I've just got to read to you right here, okay? We've got to help these young people. They are literally deranged, okay? You can see right here, it's these three things right there. Coups, thefts of power are stopped when people plan and act before the coup. Plan and act before the coup? What? Number 2, build in the streets the unity and determination while working together. What? Hold on, I'm going to read number 2 one more time. Maybe it'll make more sense the second time I read it. Build in the streets the unity and determination while working together. Garbly-gook nonsense. What's the third one? The third one, establish before the eyes of the world the righteousness of their demand. What are you talking about? The righteousness of your demand? Your demand to stop fascism. None of this is being thoroughly described or defined. It is all madness. We have literally convinced a generation of young people that they need to get out in the streets and protest, even if what they're protesting about, the ideas have not been fully vetted. They are simply going from emotion to action, which is the protest part. And in this particular case, these young women think in their mind that them doing this whole performative thing with the Handmaid's Tale outfits is being creative. They think that they need to apply their creativity to finding new ways to protest. They think this is where it's at, you guys. Yes, it's fashionable to protest. I will agree with you there. It's cool to be a protester, but they have no idea what they're doing. This is full-on insanity mixed with ignorance. They have been fully indoctrinated into this kind of overgeneralizing, catastrophizing, binary thinking way of moving through the world that has led them to acting out a bunch of bad ideas, thinking that the righteous act that they're putting together here is applying their creativity to find a new way to protest. Our protesting's a little different, everybody. Look what we're doing. Is that all we're going to do? We're going to get generation now after generation that think that the way to use their creativity is to find a new way to put a spin on protesting? That's not real creativity. Got news for you. That's not being creative. These girls think that they are standing up for a righteous cause in their mind by wearing the handmaids' outfits and spouting off on what is otherwise just a bunch of nonsense. But they have been trained to think in this very distorted way about the world, and we need to start calling it out because we need to help install in them a healthier psychology. Right now, these women are headed towards a long life of being single cat ladies, miserable in their apartment, talking about how bad the world is. Indulging in their psychological unhealthy behavior is not helping them or anyone else. This isn't helping. When I was at this location in LA, it's interesting. These girls were walking through this area here. It's like an outdoor shopping mall. And Jimmy Kimmel had a camera crew there. for his show. So they set up a little tent and they had their cameras there filming the girls doing this. What is Jimmy Kimmel going to do with that footage? He's going to make fun of these girls doing this nonsense that they're doing here. How cruel is that? Jimmy Kimmel, literally a purveyor, a guy that has been stoking the fires on the liberal agenda of getting our young people spun up in rage. You know, he is the rage baiting machine that is entertainment. It's getting our liberals to think in these ways, that is catastrophizing and binary thinking and overgeneralizing, blowing things out of proportion, mountain out of a molehill. All of that thinking is coming from guys like him. And now he's going to turn on those people and he's going to use his platform, his big, huge platform on national television to make fun of these people. How cruel is that? I don't know. I think this is testament that Jimmy Kimmel is the monster. But you know, the liberals, they'll hold him up in high esteem because he spouts the right yibbity-yabbity platform platitudes. What these young women are showing here, sadly, is examples of catastrophizing, overgeneralizing, and binary thinking. And what they really need is CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. We need to help guide these young people back to a place where they can live in more psychological health. We don't need a guy like Jimmy Kimmel making fun of them on national television. That's not going to help anybody either. Entertainment, media, higher education has been pushing hard to keep our younger generation in unhealthy thinking patterns, as we just talked about. And no one has been pushing this way of thinking harder than Jon Stewart, the old host of the show, The Daily Show. In fact, Jon Stewart was just on Stephen Colbert's show on Friday, where he was kind of going back to some of those old, kind of worn out style of communicating that he was so well known for when he was doing The Daily Show. It's a style of communicating that at some moments it's rage baiting, and other moments it's just sort of like general kind of promoting of liberal ideas, but from a snarky, smug, condescending perspective, right? He kind of went back and forth, kind of like oscillated back and forth between those. But really what we got when he was doing The Daily Show, if you watch the show, he would be doing whatever he's doing. He'd have some script that he'd follow, and then he'd throw to different people, and they'd be making fun of the news, right? And sometimes they were very effective at it. But other times, what you would notice is you'd have a studio audience that was like laughing uproariously at whatever he said. So he was like the snarky college dorm guy, the class clown guy that was making fun of the world around him. He was too cool for school. He was cool, everybody. And really what it did was it worked to manipulate an entire generation of college-age people during that era to embrace what ends up being a lot of unhealthy ways of thinking. It is a really strange thing to watch his show. If you go back and watch some of those episodes on YouTube or something, and the uncomfortable feeling of the fervor that people are laughing with, you're like, well, I know that they were coached to laugh like that. Here in LA, they tape these shows, and then I've been in these studio audiences before. I did it as a tourist when I first got to town. And you go and you sit in the studio audience, and they have people like, they have lights on the things, and they have a guy in front of you, coaching you to get excited and laugh louder and cheer louder. It's a really weird feeling when you're in the room. And it is an extension of this unhealthy thinking. It's encouraging people to think in these catastrophizing, unhealthy, overgeneralizing ways that continually coaches them to think in really negative ways about the world around them. I know I'll become a pajama boy, snarky, smug person myself as I move through the world. I'll become very critical of everyone around me. That'll solve the problem. So anyways, it was an article that was written in HuffPo. Here is the graphic for that. Terrified, Jon Stewart sums up how many Americans feel right now. You know, and the subhead is, I'm terrified, I'm anxious, I'm lonely, I'm wishing it was 2010 again. You know, and this is just more of that rage baiting way of communicating. You know, if we need to be reminded of how Jon Stewart did on his show, right? It's like always at that fevered pitch. And here's just a quick little summation of the statement he made when he was on Stephen Colbert's show. I'm terrified, I'm anxious, I'm lonely, I wish it was 2010 again. You know, he wants to go back to the bad old days, just like all the other liberals. Can't we just go back when life was a little simpler and we had a hegemony over everything and we were the coolest and we had all the best ideas and the conservatives were just roundly rejected and they were just the fuddy-duddies that we kept out of the conversation completely? Can't we just do that again? Let's get this guy out of office so that his ideas don't get even thought about by anybody anymore. And we can just go back to being in control of culture again. He says this, I just want to know what is gonna happen. I want to know how much longer we have to keep going through this, where we are in this marathon, and he goes on to say some other dumb, trite stuff about a marathon. And then he says, the finish line for me is this man, President Donald Trump, not being president anymore. And 1,000 people not dying every day from disease we don't understand. Once again, cherry picking concepts and ideas. He's, you know, making a big deal. It's once again overgeneralizing, binary thinking. He's participating in promoting unhealthy thinking. I mean, is it any wonder that he had whatever kind of breakdown he was having when he was doing the show? He was practicing all of these different levels of unhealthy thinking himself. And it's going to lead you towards lots of anxiety and depression and a type of mental breakdown eventually. The finish line for him is getting President Trump out of the office. And, you know, Donald Trump is not Jon Stewart's problem. He's on Stephen Colbert's show saying, you know, Donald Trump's the worst. We got to get him out of office. This is what all liberals say. That guy's the worst. Get him out of office, right? But what they don't realize is the unhealthy psychology that's gotten planted in America started 30 or 40 years ago when they won the culture war at that time and swiftly made political correct agendas the bedrock of everything that they were promoting in culture. So their way of describing morality always came back to a politically correct position on something. This has now led us to, cascade effect, all of this really negative psychology that's been promoted and fear-based, you know, fear-stoking, rage baiting that's been going on for the left to keep everybody under control for all these years. And it's just breaking down. It's just not working like it used to. And what he's basically saying, what Jon Stewart's saying is, can't we get Donald Trump out of office so we can just go back to keeping people living in fear and we just keep using the same rage baiting tactics to keep that liberal hegemonic power over all the institutions? That's what he really wants. But it's not coming back. People are making the connection now. They're understanding that it's the fear and it's the rage baiting and it's the unhealthy thinking that has been leading to all of this rioting and looting in all of our major cities. And they know that it's being stoked by the left. So how do you think people are going to vote? Look, the truth of the matter is, whether you're on the right or the left, most average people like law and order. You know, they're not really fans. Liberals may be giving lip service to rioting and looting and that kind of thing as being like a positive way of expressing yourself. But they don't really believe that. They're not really down with that. I guess what I would say to Jon Stewart is, okay, John, I guess we conservatives will turn our country around, you know, from all the insane people that led it to this, including you. Thanks for making our jobs so hard, you smug, condescending, arrogant jerk. You know, just to kind of wrap this subject up before we kind of lead it to, you know, Trump winning this election, walking away, right? This is the last point that I want to make about this. In California right now, this is what I'm seeing, boots on the ground here, around the city here, and what I'm hearing reports of around the country and all of our major cities there as well. We are bracing ourselves for violence right now. You look around LA, businesses are boarding up again. What are they anticipating? Right? If you want proof of where the violence is coming from, just look at the result, right? They know that if Donald Trump is elected president, there's going to be a good chance that we're going to see more unrest, more violence, more crime, more looting, more destruction of businesses. And they know it's coming from the left. So since people know that, and since people generally like law and order, how do you think they're going to vote? I mean, this to me is building the common sense case. You see where I'm going with all that? I will encourage you, if you're going to vote, you know, go out there, vote tomorrow. I would encourage you, really think about which candidate is it that's really on the side of law and order? Which candidate that is it that really cares about free speech and freedom and fighting for the citizens of the country, not the people that are committing the crime in our country, right? But as I said, in California, they're boarding up all around the city, anticipating, you know, whether it's Beverly Hills or whether it's over in, there's downtown, Fairfax District, there's different parts of LA where they are boarding up and getting ready for unrest and for violence. And it's been coming completely from the insane liberal left. They're basically jerks that are pissed off that the Democrat ideas aren't selling like they once did. It's really what's happening here. It's a group of angry people that wish that their ideas were still winning. And it's like they're just having some sort of existential freak out and they're short-circuiting and just running out in the streets and destroying things. They don't really know how to express it because all they've been taught is rage. All they've been taught is unhealthy ways of thinking. They all need CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, to help them overcome these unhealthy ways of thinking. But the truth is, Democrats are losing traction in the culture. They are losing it because their ideas are just worse than conservative ideas. It's better if they just accept what's going on, face it, and then start making some practical changes now. As we come out of this election and Donald Trump wins in a landslide, they need to really make some big corrections here before they make things any worse. Because honestly, destroying cities is not going to be a long-term solution for liberals. I don't even know if all the people in Los Angeles are consciously aware, but there is a resentment that has been building towards the left. You know, they may vote for the Democrat candidate. Maybe California will still go blue, which I think it will. But it's only out of living in ignorance. They're voting out of ignorance. They'd rather blame Donald Trump for things than blame the actual source of where all this negativity is coming from, where all this destruction is being inspired by. And this is why I am making the prediction now that Donald Trump will win this election walking away. It will be a cinch. Of course, we have the mail-in ballots. Of course, we have this, you know, this kind of threat that they're going to be counting ballots for days after Election Day, maybe a week after Election Day. This is my prediction on the whole thing. I think we're going to get to the end of the third, end of tomorrow night, and it's going to be very clear that even if we were to count all the mail-in ballots, that Donald Trump's really just he's way too far ahead to really make that much of a difference. maybe we'll do the thing where we kind of, walk the path, I guess, so to speak. We'll count the ballots for a week and then we'll make the announcement. But I think it'll be pretty clear at the end of tomorrow night that Donald Trump is the winner walking away. At any rate, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Do you agree with my assessment here? Do you agree that we are having a problem with all these cognitive distortions being taught in our entertainment, in our media, and in our education system, and that it's coming from the left because they're at the top of all those organizations? Or do you disagree with me on that? Let me know. We'll keep the conversation going. Until next time, this has been the pre-election special from Americana X Newswatch. I'm Greg D. I've been coming to you live from Los Angeles, California. We will see you next time.